Hey, what's up, everybody? Championship Leadership Podcast. And today we have Damon Burton, not to be confused with
No,
Damien
Damien.
Burton, as
Yes.
we was talking about, with SEO National. He's out of Salt Lake City, Utah. And just appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Yeah. So it's for the listeners, letting them in on the
Yeah.
inside joke. So I've been married for 13 years. My wife's twin brother just slaughters my name and he doesn't even like, he owns it. He's like, no, your name is not your name. Like
Yeah,
Damien.
no,
It's
it's
not
Damien.
Damon. It's Damien.
I have a friend like that, which is, I guess let's keep down this for a little bit. We played softball together after college, and his last name was Schall, Schaal, and I
Uh-huh.
always thought for the longest time it was Jall, Jahl. So I'd always put that in the book when we were playing. And one day he's finally like, it's Schall, right? And I'm like, no, really?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's like, it's cool. I kind of like it, so just leave it.
It's your thing. Yeah. That's Nate's thing now.
Yeah, it's Jall. So yeah,
That's funny.
that was funny. Well, yeah, thanks again for being here. I appreciate it. Let's kick it off. I always like to ask every guest, what does championship leadership mean to you? That's the name of the podcast. So, when you hear that, what do you think of?
I'll go with something that actually kind of came in this morning. I got a message on Facebook from kind of like a follower, I guess you'd say, somebody that follows what I do. And they said, hey, Damon, check this vision board out. And she's talked about her vision board before. And she goes, let's play I Spy. Let me know when you see it. And so I'm like checking it out. And she's got me in there next to Gary Vaynerchuk and Oprah Winfrey and just these huge people. And but what she said after that was, thanks for not only being an inspiration in business, but I hope to one day have a team that is appreciative as much on both sides, you appreciating them appreciating you as much as you've communicated that you have with your team. So I think that's one thing that I really pride myself on, is just having a team that, but exactly that. I call them a team. I don't really call them employees. And, in 13 years, I've only had one person quit, and that was last year. And that's because I encouraged them to go take another opportunity that just kind of came up. Like they weren't looking
Yeah.
for it. And so I got a really loyal team. And I think that's something that I've put a lot of intentional effort behind. And I think it pays itself back pretty well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think to that, right, it's, if you are that type of leader, a championship level leader, we'll call it, right? It's a huge testament to that fact that you're doing something right, that you're taking care of your people, that they want to be there, that they want to follow you, and that they love the vision, the mission. And that's special. It's unique. And especially it seems today more than ever, rare.
Yeah, I think we're moving towards I think we're going to tip back the other way. We've had this huge growth of instant gratification in the digital world, and I think we're burning out on it. I mean, technology is still going to carry us
Yeah.
forever, but I think we're going to start tipping back a little bit, where people are, I was on a podcast just right before this one where we got talking heavily on, soft skills, just being able to communicate with people and the importance of that moving forward. And I
Yeah.
think, trust is going to be a bigger part of business and commerce moving forward.
Yeah, that'd be nice. And I think I kind of feel that tilt happening as well, slightly. So
Yeah.
it would be nice. What Tell us a little bit about you and SEO National, what you got going on. You mentioned the team that you've had over the last 13 years, so some definite longevity there. Just give us some insight into you and how you've gotten to where you are today.
Yeah. So, I started SEO National in 2007. The abbreviated version of what we do is, SEO is search engine optimization. So we work with clients to show up higher on search engines without paying for ad space. And then, when I started into the entrepreneurship world, I picked something and committed. I didn't want to be an agency that said they offered it all and then was mediocre at all of it. So SEO is my thing. And it's been a fun journey because it's dynamic enough that it keeps my interest, but I have core practices I follow that give you that comfort and stability. So SEO has been a fun career to be in, and I've worked with a lot of great people. As far as me personally, some of the bigger things I've done lately is I write for Forbes now, and so that's pretty cool to be able to write about that. Just finished a book. Man, kudos to authors. Writing a book sucks.
What's the name? It is. It's a difficult process, isn't it?
Yeah, it's tentatively titled Outrank. It's head to
Yeah,
print right now and just
makes sense.
last edits. And um, the last I kind of feel like I've done entrepreneurship backwards. And what I mean by that is I did really well and still do really well, but I didn't really appreciate, like I'm starting to appreciate my path retrospectively
Yeah,
more.
yeah,
So I'm more appreciative of the type of work that I do, the people that I work with, the work ethic that I've had over the years. And as you get older, like things change. And I'm like, damn, I'm glad that I put in the time when I did, because I don't think I could play at the same level in some things as I do now. And like you still grind it out, but you just figure out different ways to do it. So for me personally, it's I'm in like a reflective mode in the last year, and I think I've still got another good year to go in it before I feel like I'm in the next chapter of life, and where I'm
yeah.
at and what's going on.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, about SEO, and from what I can remember, like 2007 is probably right about the time where it kind of became this cool term and thing, right? That
Yeah.
started hearing about it, never really still knew what it was or what it meant. I think I have a little better understanding now, but still, it's something. It's one of those things for me, and probably I would imagine for many. It's just kind of like you kind of know what it is, but you don't really know how to do it or take the time to get to know what to do. How did you decide to like maybe see that this was going to be something that was going to be critical and important for a lot of people, a lot of businesses, and something that you could create a company around, and obviously become an industry leader inside of that, the success that you've had, the longevity that you've had to be able to do that, to pick that niche, which is hard for a lot of entrepreneurs to
Yeah.
do, because you don't want to narrow yourself down too small. That's the thought, right?
Yeah.
And I think, when someone like yourself comes around and can disprove that by doing what you do, like, yeah, maybe talk to that a little bit.
Yeah, I think one thing that's important that I think entrepreneurs need to kind of embrace is experimentation, like being okay figuring it out. I think nowadays too many entrepreneurs come into the game, and social media glorifies a lot of things, and it should to an extent. Entrepreneurship is cool, and you do get out what you put in, but it's not like an overnight thing. And so I think it's really important that you kind of figure out what you like by identifying what you don't like. And so I was totally cool when I first started the company. We were more on the design side, so I had a background in web design, and I was just kind of filling it out, like what type of projects did I like to work on? Not which projects that I could monetize, but what did I actually like doing? And so over the course of working with different clients, we ended up having a client come along that said, "Hey, what do you know about Google? How do you do that?" And I said, "Well, I know enough, but it's not my area of expertise." And I was always very transparent and still am. And I think that speaks to the longevity, is embracing that transparency. And I said, "Hey, I will experiment on you if you experiment on me." So we worked out a deal where I said, "We got these goals, give me 3 months to hit them, and don't pay me anything unless I do." And so they were incentivized because it was no risk. But
Yeah.
I was incentivized because I said, if I hit that goal, you owe me retroactively.
Yeah.
And so it was really a no lose situation for both of us. And we hit those goals in a couple of weeks, and I enjoyed the process. And so I said, let me try this one more time. And I made the same offer to another client, hit those goals. And I said, this is my thing. Like, this is what I like. This is what I'm going to commit to. And I just went all in on it.
That's incredible. Cool. What talk to us a little bit about maybe some championship leaders, coaches, mentors, people that you've that have kind of took you under their wing a little bit, or maybe directly, indirectly, that you've learned from along the way, and more importantly than like who they are, is really what are
Sure.
some of those traits, characteristics you've taken from them and that have helped kind of mold who you are as a leader.
So I probably have an answer that's opposite to most. I've never really gone under the wing of very many people, but I have learned a lot from other people by seeing what they do wrong. So, one great example is one of the last employers I had before I started my business. Super successful guy, grossed millions of dollars a month. There was just like two or three of us as employees. I was his go-to guy, and we just all got treated like crap. promises left and right that were never made, bonuses that were offered that were never paid. And it was really obvious, even aside from like, hey, this isn't the way business should be. There was like real clear takeaways that I now apply into not only my business, but my personal life. I remember, one story was I was out at dinner with my wife when we were first married, and he was calling me, and it was after hours. And I was thinking like, I'm at dinner with my wife, this isn't cool. But then I didn't answer. And then he started blowing me up. He started sending me text messages and emails. And to that day, at that moment, I deleted my emails from my phone. And in 13 years, I have never had email back on my phone.
Oh, really?
And
Wow.
so I've set real clear hard stops to try and maintain, productivity in work hours and, private life and private time. And so I think that's really supported both of those. And you need to have success in both of those to have success in the other. So I really learned a lot by taking away observations from things that I didn't feel right about that other people did.
Yeah, it's an important piece to it, right? And you'd be surprised actually. I have been surprised by the answer to this question or a similar question, is that there are more people that haven't necessarily been taken under a wing of somebody but just the ability to also learn from what you don't like from others, right? As you go
Mm-hmm.
through life, we all have experiences, we all have interactions with different owners, leaders,
Yeah.
or people who think they're leaders but just have the title, and you kind of, along that path, you take what you like, what you don't like, and that also helps to mold you to who you want to become.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's been a lot of other people that I've seen that weren't as much as a bad guy as that from former employee I just talked about.
Yeah,
And I've seen other people with hyper success, but they were a different person on stage than they were off the stage.
yeah,
And like, I can't do that. I'm sure I could take my company like, levels higher, but I want to sleep at night. I want to maintain that clean conscience.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a key one too, right? And that's something that's big for me as well, is to continue to be able to, as a coach, impacting and leading others, is to as much as possible, continue to be that person on the stage that I am off of it.
Yeah.
Well as, and I can imagine, with different levels of success, it can become a little bit more difficult to do that. But at the same time, I know it's possible. So
Yeah.
it's awesome to hear you say that as well. Um, what is the vision for you? Like, where do you want to go? I think a championship level leader, they have great vision. They more so than most others, and that's what sets them apart. And it's also that willingness to be able to take action, or the courage to decide and move on that vision that they have that might be different
Yeah.
from somebody else. Where are you looking to go? What's the impact you want to make inside of SEO National?
Well, I kind of answer that a couple ways. So directly within SEO National, we've grown a lot because of that transparency we spoke of earlier. So I want to continue to scale the business and just maintain that ethic within the company. So, long term, me personally, I'll probably exit the business at some point in the next couple of years. And I, I'll kind of lean back on my own advice after that. I have big grand plans and I can feel it, but I don't know the details of it. And I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with, figuring it out. And just because what I don't want to do and what I don't think other people should do, whether it's in business or, finding out their purpose in life, is rushing into anything. Like, I'm not going to just go, well, that purpose sounds like the closest thing I can think of right now, and then commit to something I'm not 100% about. So, I don't know entirely. I'll probably take a couple months off and do nothing, like
Yeah,
catch up on
yeah,
life and refill a little bit, and
yeah,
go do some travels with my wife and kids. And then I'm definitely going for impact after that. I've been fortunate enough to have good success, and I think I want to just return the favor to an extent and go down the path of, helping in some capacity.
yeah. Okay, I like it. What's that can be a difficult thing, right? To remove yourself from something, especially when it was your baby that you took and started on your own. Any thoughts or around that and the difficulties of that, or is it something you can see yourself being able to do fairly easily, assuming obviously you have the right people in place, right?
Yeah, I'm somewhat in the middle. I think a big part of being able to detach from it from when that time comes is knowing that I've built really strong processes. Because you're right, it's like your baby, and I think more so than I think the bigger fear for some business owners when they let things go like that is they're afraid that the other guy's going to screw it up.
Yeah.
I don't have that fear because we've done so well at documenting our processes. And so I know that it's a turnkey operation. So I'm not afraid of it in that capacity, like it's going to go up in flames once I let it go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's certainly some personal attachment to it. And I've had a lot of other friends have some big exits. And one common thing that they talk about is they're like, what do I do? Like, who am I?
Yeah.
Because they've been so tied in day out to that. So I think that part is a little intimidating because when you're high functioning and just always on the go, and then all of a sudden you don't know where you're going, like, there's a little bit of that part where I say, I wonder how I'm going to react. But at the same time, I know it's coming, so I know that I will process it. And so I'm not afraid of being blindsided by that, new situation in life. But yeah, there's a little bit to it where I'm more curious than anything to see what happens. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. And yeah, thank you. What's a critical moment in your life, or maybe a turning point where, had you not made the decision that you did, you wouldn't be sitting where you are right now today, talking about potentially, taking yourself out of the business and figuring out what that path is for you next down the road. But could have you in a very different place than you are today. I always call it the fork in the road, right? There's the road that most people travel, and there's a road less traveled that it's takes a lot of courage. It's the one that a lot of people will feel pulled to.
Mm-hmm.
But whether it's like, well, they're not sure because they kind of want that guarantee before they take that first step, right? It's like that faith versus like the safe path, which really is the path that leads to regret for a lot of people, because then they look back and wish they would have, went right instead of left. Is there a moment that sticks out to you where, man, you had that fork and you did go the path that you did, it has where you are today, but could have very easily turned out a different way?
Yeah, we could probably talk about two different things. The one that seems more applicable is when I started the business. I was one of those side hustlers that shoestringed it together. And
Yeah.
so when I first started my business, I was 24, 25, something like that. And it was cool being self-employed. For the first year, it was basically just me. And where I really kind of went all in was when I started to look at hard numbers, and I said, 80% of my time is spent on my day job, but it's only giving me 50% of my income. And then the other 20% is also producing 50% of my income. So when I realized I was approaching that tipping point, I said, okay, it'll suck to cut off that 50% of income, but I'm going to free up 80% of my time. So, and at the time, I mean, I wasn't making anything astronomical. I think my day job was like 25 grand and my side hustle was like 20 grand.
Yeah.
And so I could basically pay my bills at 25 grand. It was just me and my wife. Our only major debt was like a car payment and a mortgage. And I knew kids at some point were on the horizon. And I figured it made more sense to take that calculated risk then than later. And so, I made the jump. I went all in on being self-employed, and by freeing up that time, it really allowed me to commit to finding other clients that I could service and doing the things I like to do. And it didn't take too long to recoup that income, and then, scaled from there, and the rest is history, I guess you'd say. So that's probably my main defining moment.
Yeah, appreciate it. What was it from the outside? Was there anyone around you that was like, "What are you doing?" Like, how can this, or was it pretty supportive?
It was kind of in the middle. I've been asked that before, and I didn't have. There's not like a real clear moment where I had a blatant in your face doubter, but you
Yeah.
would definitely catch the undertones.
Yeah.
And so like the doubt was there, but no one just like came out and said it.
Yeah.
But I think mine was probably a little bit minimized compared to maybe some others because I've always been like pretty strong willed. And so I've never been like hyper aggressive or anything where I had like big grandiose dreams, but people knew me well enough that if I committed to something that I was going to make it happen. So I think there was some trust in my decisions a little bit in that capacity.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What what has it always been SEO National or
No, no, it's funny.
or did you go national later?
I went national later. So,
Okay.
my being the mid 20-year-old, I went with DAB Empire. Cause why wouldn't you use your name or your initials when you're a badass 20
I
year
love
old?
it. Empire.
And so like, 3-4 years into it, I was like, that's stupid. That is so dumb. And so, DAB Empire is actually still
Sure.
um, the legal holding company. But then I was like, no, I need to, be more consistent in the branding, have a more clear message. And so we went with SEO National.
I love it. How long did it take you to take things national? Was that a fairly quick process for you? Things, the
That,
clients that you work with, and getting
yeah.
outside.
Well, when you drive, so by far the majority of our clients come from referrals, and
Yeah.
so we've been able to build a reputation where we have a good track record. And so once you get into a certain level of success, you kind of get welcomed into this inner circle of your clients, friends, and partners as well.
Yeah.
And so we get introduced to well-established businesses pretty regularly that you couldn't really one example I talk about is we were working with the Utah Jazz. They have what's called the Utah Jazz Team Store, and so that's where they sell their jerseys and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that is a perfect example of trust and relationships because that came from a referral. And there, I could have spent $1 million on postcards, paid ads, you name it, and I would have never got my foot in the door with
Yeah.
them. But
Yeah.
all it took was like one introduction
Yeah.
from somebody that trusted me, and those people trusted him. So yeah, that trust goes a long way.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Um, what is what's one or two things that I usually call them like guiding principles or just things that you live by that you could give to the listeners that they could take and actually just put in action. If they put them into action today, they could help themselves move forward. Is there one or two things you could leave with the listeners?
I think the main thing would just reemphasize that transparency topic that we talked about. A good example is as we scaled to having larger clients. When we first started, we were kind of the budget provider because that's where I felt comfortable. Like
Yeah.
I wanted to set realistic expectations on the product we were delivering, and we could only cater to a certain type of audience. Sure, yeah, I'd love more money and to bill more, but I didn't want to feel like I was ripping people off. And so kind of find your area of expertise and continue to craft that. And so what we did is we went from billing $300 a month to providing a list of services that was, this big. And then we said, okay, if we want to raise prices, how can we bring more value? And so that's how we worked on growing as a company is how can we justify increasing costs? Not just increase them, but justify it. And so then we figured out we could do these more things and drive these better results. And so then we went to like 750, repeated the process, went to 1500, repeated the process. And, now our clients are like, they average $3,000 to $10,000 per month. But that's because we are not the budget provider anymore.
Yeah.
And we know we have a clear understanding of the value that we can bring. And so at the end of the day, like all of your clients have a problem and you just have to figure out how to solve their problem and, associate your price with that value that you bring. So just get really clear on what you can offer. It's going to help you grow. It's going to clear your conscience. It's going to help you sleep at night. Like it's just going to solve all your problems.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's, I think for many new entrepreneurs, especially, they almost devalue themselves or don't think that they can charge what they maybe do deserve. And so, that's how was that for you to continue to bump up? Did you feel like, the process you just explained made a total sense, right?
Hmm.
Um, and I love that you were able to go through it that way. But was that something that you experienced at all as well? As like, man, I don't know if, you know,
For sure.
if we charge this much, like we're going to go out of business, or what was that?
Yeah. Like the first half of that, like the 300 to 750, 750 to 1500. Yeah, definitely during
Yeah,
those moments. Um, the because you end up turning away business too sometimes, and so that's definitely scary.
yeah,
Because when we went from the 300 a month range to 750, we provided a lot more things, and just logistically we couldn't provide the same quantity and quality of things at the lower price point. And so
yeah,
yeah, that part's definitely scary, but you have to start attracting the type of clients you want to work with, because like we talked earlier, they're going to welcome you into the inner circle of their friends and partners too. So if you want to stay as the budget provider and that's where you feel comfortable, like own it. Like wherever
yeah,
you're at on that tier, just own it. But then if you want to bump up, like if you're working with the budget guys, you're associated with the budget guys,
yeah,
and that's your reputation. So you just got to decide which path you're going to head down. And each transition, there's going to be a little bit of a give and a take until you get all the way into that new zone. But it just kind of comes with the territory. But if you move at high enough levels and make big enough jumps, like you're not down for long.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you. What are a few ways that we can find out more about you, what you got going on with your company, SEO National, and yeah, so that the listeners can follow you.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Nate. So probably a couple ways. SEOnational.com is the business side of things. DamonBurton.com, I blog about entrepreneurship there. And then LinkedIn is my social media platform of choice. So you can find me
Okay.
on LinkedIn. I drop a lot of free SEO advice. And probably the last way is you can go to SEOnational.com/Facebook. That'll redirect you to a free Facebook group. It's not a hidden sales thing or nothing. Like it's legit free. You just, every other day or so I drop in and drop some SEO tips.
Okay, great. Thank you. Yeah, we'll get that linked up so everybody can find that easily inside of the show notes. So I appreciate you taking some time today on this Friday. Today is Friday. So
Yeah.
yeah, thank you so much for doing that and being here today with us.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Nate. Appreciate it.
You bet.